that hurt me. That like I was in tears. He just landed on my face with his head there. The feeling was like all my teeth had came out. This must be what a broken jaw feels like. Mo's a good example of this. I'm sure you've seen that knee bar. Yeah, absolutely horrific. I genuinely looked
his
away.
leg bent.
Because I couldn't look at it anymore, and I also knew that he wouldn't tap. So when I was watching it, I imagined it was about to go boom and just go. He's always said he'd never tap, and I believe him.
Are we going to have a Shake the Mic exclusive here or what?
Let's do it, and if it's not available at the time,
no problem.
Then we can take this out. So
yeah.
look, I've
Welcome fight enthusiasts to another episode of Shake the Mic. Today we have the privilege of delving into the multifaceted world of MMA with a true leader. Not only is our guest a seasoned cage fighter, but a visionary gym owner and an inspiring coach. Join us as we uncover the unparalleled journey of Dean Garnett inside and outside the octagon. Dean, thanks so much for coming in. Welcome on.
Nice one.
One of the main pillars of this podcast is self-development. You embody that in so many ways. With your training, your coaching, your gym, you're implementing it and you're passing it on to your students and the youth coming through. For you, where does your passion for self-development come from?
Do you know what? I think the fight game taught me like that you put work in and you get it out. I remember being like your average 18-year-old doing A-levels, wanting to party all the time. You know, parents saying, come on, you got to go and get a degree, and then going to uni for the sake of it. Studying real estate or accountancy first, and then I switched to the other one because I didn't like it. But really, I was just out partying and had no passion for what I was doing. But then when I did actually start training MMA at like 19, I kind of like got to see and gone, you're coming in the gym on week 1 and everybody's twisting you up. And then by month 6, you know, it's 50-50 with the people you're rolling with. And I just think like, I just realised if I'm passionate about something and I turn up every day with the right attitude, then it goes somewhere. And I just think the original model of education, you know, doesn't suit everyone. And for me, as much as I wanted a job to earn money, wasn't a passion. And I think that's what I found in MMA, and that's where it all began for me anyway.
Do you believe you've got to enjoy something to improve?
No, but obviously, for a young person, it's going to be a big catalyst in success. I think obviously there's many fields where people probably don't enjoy the craft, but they are experts. So, but I just think passion for a young person equates to a lot. We
are all creatures of praise and pleasure, and I feel like if we enjoy something, we definitely spend more time doing it, don't we?
100%.
Better never ends. It's a hashtag I've seen you use on so many posts. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, better never stops. So I think it's just like, you know, it's that 1% better every day sort of mantra. It's just another take on that. You know, I've been doing MMA 16 years now, or 17 years. It's coming September, and I just sometimes think, wow, there's still so much to learn, so much I still don't know about the game. So I just think it's that, you know, having that white belt mentality to everything you do and always wanting to learn and grow, and yeah, that's where that mantra comes from. Improvement's infinite, isn't it? It's just, it is never ending. Yeah. It's never ending. We keep turning up, we keep improving. Especially in a sport like MMA, mate, where there's just so many variables.
Do you think that's being transferred into all walks of your life, Dean? Not just what started on the mat has went into your education, it's went into, you know, your business, your social circles. Do you feel like that's really, really where it's all developed from MMA, the discipline in the first place, but now it's spiraled into so many other ways? I think so. We hear this word a lot, don't we? Toxic masculinity. I don't believe that's a thing. I don't believe it exists. I just think there's an absence of masculinity, which in itself is toxic. What do you think people mean when they say toxic masculinity? What do you think they're meaning behind that is? What do you think that message they're trying to convey is?
I think like you're talking about, you know, when men get together, you know, Millwall away and they're all scrapping, and you know, we might hear someone talking about, you know, football hooligans being an example of toxic masculinity. But again, it's just like it's the this is what happens when men don't have a real sense of purpose in the world. They cling on to things that are meaningless, like the football. So there's a tribe now. I've got a tribe, or Liverpool, or Everton, or whoever, and it gives them some sort of community and meaning, which is what we all strive for. We all want to be part of something, but society's set up in a way where those needs aren't met in a meaningful way. So what they do is they give you things like entertainment, bread and circuses, basically, from Rome. And in the modern world, that's like football's a good example. But for me, when I found a purpose in MMA and something I could cling on to and something that I was proud to identify with, probably for the wrong reasons at first, that then spiraled into, you know, something that went off in loads of directions for me.
Them wrong reasons seem to fall away, because I can relate to what you're saying. Because before you were involved with MMA, it's more like in the street, you're looking to have a straightener with someone to feel relevance. 100%. So people go, yeah, he can have a portion, he's a serious team, whatever. So you're trying to, you've got, it's ego driven, and you're trying to prove that alpha male, that masculinity, like, look, yeah, I can have it. I'll put it on anyone's toes. And then over the period of time, when you've been humbled and you've learned discipline and you've learned respect and you keep turning up and you do improve, you look back and think, I was a fucking wally. I couldn't fight in the first place. Yeah. Now I can. But then you don't feel that need to try and show that to anybody. If you were out somewhere having a coffee and someone started kicking off, 10 years ago, you might have jumped up and went, shut up, dickhead. Yeah. But now it's like, yeah, let him keep rambling. Is there any digestives going there? Because you don't feel that need to be that guy.
No, but you've just described me as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old lad. Not so much a bad lad, or look, not causing trouble, but looking for trouble.
Lack of direction.
Yeah, so if there was someone in a party who was being a bit of an umpty, then I'd be happy to have it out with that person. So I was looking for confrontation for the reasons you just described. And
subconsciously you're looking for it as well. You'd be walking down the road and like you're sort of on that edge, aren't you? Like thinking if it goes off, you're ready. Where now doesn't feel that same way.
Oh, I think as well, mate, a lot of youngsters are in like an identity crisis. So it's like, you know, for me, fighting is a big part of my identity. It doesn't define me anymore, but you know, I remember we brought some young lads into the gym from like a special education unit where they're being moved from mainstream school, and I had 9 of them on the mat, and I said, right, come on, let's get your North Face coats off, and they were like, nah. we had to do the JIT session with some of them wearing the North Face coats, and it was just like, it's like a safety blanket for them, do you know what I mean?
It's identity, like, isn't it?
Who do you want to identify with? That the guys standing outside the corner shop all wearing the same clobber, or the guys in the gym who you know, you all help each other get better at a martial arts every day. So definitely there's a big issue with giving young men purpose and direction.
Beneath the North Face, there's a lot of insecurity, isn't there?
100%, and this is where the carrying a blade, you know, in 99% of cases stems from. It's a fear thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. When you're ready to step out of the shadows and actually be yourself, and listen, we're all afraid of being judged. I don't care who you are or whether you say you are or you aren't. To some extent, we all are, and I feel like we all want to fit in. But when you realise that, like, you know, we're all individuals and we're all here to be ourselves, you start judging people less and you feel less judged, and it's definitely a step towards, like, you know, creating your own identity and being who you are. Do you think that social media has caused mass confusion for the youth of today?
I think it's definitely added to the confusion of the youth today. There's a lot of confusing things for young people, you know, at the moment.
Body types,
you know, gender, like even that sort of conversation now. You know, I find that completely strange. That
talk to me about it and your opinions on gender, Dean.
So yeah, I feel like the gender ideology is just not appropriate for youngsters. And I feel like it's in my 2019 podcast that I've done. It's off the internet now, but I made some predictions in that podcast about things that might happen in 2020 onwards regarding vaccinations, for example. But I also talked about the fact that there's going to be a big push on basically breaking down the family unit, and one of the ways to do that is by confusing young people so that they can't produce these solid family units, you know what I mean? So now we've got an epidemic of young people, many of them who identify on the spectrum, believing that they're born in the wrong body. And for me, that's just a cruel thing to tell any child. You go back 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit more, and no one had ever even heard of gender ideology. But now we're telling kids that it's probably just gay kids. You know, most of these kids, if left alone, grow up to become gay adults, which is absolutely sound. They don't need to be told that they're in the wrong body. Like, you can tell a child that no one's born in the wrong body.
I believe you're messing with nature. Whatever way we are is the way we're intended to be.
100%, mate. So I find it confusing that obviously we're allowing this to happen.
Have you got children yourself?
I've got a 2-year-old daughter and a son on the way as well.
So if they're being taught that, I've got a lad, I've got 4 children, I've got 3 boys and I've got a girl, but my eldest lad now, he comes home sometimes and he's like confused about stuff like gender ideology and stuff like that, and I tell him, this is my opinion on it. There's boys and there's girls. There's nothing else. There's no in between. No. Boys can't be girls and girls can't be boys. That's how it is. You know, if you like the same sex, that's one thing. Then you're gay. But you're not a boy trapped in a girl's body.
No, there's no such thing, mate. No such thing. And what we've seen now is like you've got the LGB community, and now they've attached this like trans and non-binary thing under the same umbrella. And I think that's dangerous for the LGBT community, because this whole gender ideology thing is opening up the door for predators, isn't it, really? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good examples of this now. There's actually something I was watching just a couple of days ago in Canada, and this is a university lecturer identifying as a 13-year-old girl, travelling the country, competing against 13-year-old girls in swimming competitions and getting changing with them and showering with them. Like, come on. Like, if you tried to do that 10 years ago,
it's not happening.
You'd be beaten on sight, and then when the police turned up, you'd be arrested.
Most definitely.
Now you're celebrated, and anyone who questions it is a bigot. So,
because not enough people are questioning it, and that's the thing. And the further we get away from normalness, or what we deem to be normal, the more messed up it's getting. Because the scope's just getting wider and wider for an allowance that that's okay, well, this is okay, and where does it end, and where do you draw the line?
It ends with children being able to consent to sex with adults. That's what I believe that agenda's about. And I said that several years ago, and we're already seeing it now.
You're a bit of a Nostradamus with these predictions, aren't you?
I wish I wasn't, but again.
Do you think that's coming down from the elite because that's something that they want?
I think most things in society are forms of social engineering that can be traced back to these groups. I don't know what to call them, but yeah, the elite, if you want to call them that.
Cult.
The cult, whatever. Yeah.
It's a bit of a scary world we're living in today, isn't it?
Definitely, mate. Definitely, and I'm it's going to be interesting seeing how that plays out, because it obviously has massive ramifications for like sport, women's spaces.
It interests me, the research and the homework you're doing. I want to try and just like get in the head of Dean Garnett a little bit. You spend your spare time doing this, Dean? Like
less so now. I think.
Did you at one point?
At one point, I would say I probably spent maybe an hour or 2 a day researching.
Do you read, watch things? What is it you do?
Bit of both. I like reading things. I do most of it online, or on my phone, but yeah, I'm more than happy to read some books, but typically I just watch videos.
Where would you say the credibility comes from for your beliefs in them lights? If you read something on the media,
my own discernment. Yeah. So this is something. It's like a tool that you have to train, and if you don't train it, you'll have no belief in it. It's like a fighter not training his boxing. He's not going to believe in his hand. So I've been wrong about loads of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I've been humbled a few times. So your bullshit filter just gets better. And I think for me, I feel like I understand where the long-term goals are of these organisations, because they put them out there for you to see. The World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the Trilateral Commission, these sort of organisations have laid out what's happening in front of us in black and white already.
Do you think there's an end game, and if so, what is it?
Yeah, the end game is complete control, and people go, well, why do they want that? And it's like, I don't know, because I'm not a lunatic. I'm not a power driven maniac. but there's certainly an agenda for control, and they're going to use what I believe is the modern world religion of scientism. They're going to use scientism as a means to brainwash people into
Go deeper on that shit for me, please.
On scientism.
When you're saying the modern world religion on scientism, explain that to me.
So basically, I'm not religious.
Religious is a form of power. Religion's a form of power, isn't it? It's used to scare people.
But I do believe there's truth in religious texts, personally. So I believe there's a lot of truth in religious texts, but I'm still not someone who follows an organised religion.
Okay.
I believe there's a divine creator, and that's that. Where was I going with the scientism thing? So basically, you know, I was quite academic as a young person, and
you can see that it filters through.
Yeah, I did enjoy studying things like science and that. But obviously, I had a close friend who just broke a lot of my belief systems, and as I got more into the science stuff, I was blown away. There's a professor called John Ioannidis, and he's a researcher who is an expert in fraud within research, within scientific research, and he's based at Stanford in the States, and he got together with a group of other scientists, and he produced a paper, a peer-reviewed paper, which you can Google and you'll get this up, and it was basically called "Most Published Research is False."
Do you think a lot of the real information suppressed?
100%. I just think science is just an extension of marketing. So with this group of scientists, they tried to recreate a lot of different pieces of research, and it was something
for
crazy.
Their narrative.
What's that?
Do you think that was for their narrative, recreating the pieces of research?
No, I think they were trying to say, let's see if we can. So this particular science here is on cancer. They recreate it and they go, and gone, that was a lie. When we recreated it, we got nowhere near as good results. Then they do something on sugar. Then they might do something on something totally non-related.
I see. So what was published originally, they've recreated that experiment, and
they've got different results.
That's like a proof of the first one. So it's like, if you said something was to be a certain way, then I retested it, I'd be like, no, the information he's filled out's incorrect. So this is what we've received, and this is what we've got.
So this is the point. Like I think it was something crazy, like 80+% of it was they couldn't repeat it. So therefore, they obviously never followed the scientific method. But, you know, essentially, it's just...
So do you think the original publications were somebody else's narrative?
Yeah, they were basically just marketing, pieces of marketing. That's what most science is. There's a little documentary called The Crisis of Science, which looks at John Ioannidis' work.
Where can we find that?
That's on YouTube, The Crisis of Science. Again, probably YouTube, but it's referencing people like John Ioannidis. So if you've got a bit of a brain, you can read information on BBC and know it's propaganda, but you can also go, but that bit's true as well. So,
do you ever watch mainstream media?
Very rarely. I don't really watch much telly personally. Like if I'm watching telly, it's like Dragon's Den or something. Like I do like some reality TV.
But you're not into mainstream news channels or anything like that?
Oh, I just think they're propaganda.
I think it alters our worldview. That's my opinion.
100% it does.
You know, people say, oh, you know, the economy's smashed. I'm like, mine isn't. Yours might be from what you watch, but mine isn't. Mine's fine. I don't let that infiltrate my thoughts because I don't watch it. I get up in my own world and I go out, I exercise, I start my day with my own view and my own vision, and I come to work and I do me, and I go home and I do me, and I don't watch anything that's going to sort of derail me from that. That's my personal take on things.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, they wouldn't spend all this money on propaganda if it didn't do none. So it certainly works, and it certainly does shape people's reality for them, and you know, we know what that leads to. Mass formation psychosis in different forms. We've just seen it from 2020 onwards, haven't we, with the whole pandemic situation.
And that's just a trial to see how far can you push society and how much will you bend and how much will you listen.
I'm sure it was to achieve a lot of things. That would have been one of them, of course, but it did sort of allow them to get the infrastructure in for certain things, like vaccine passports, for example. Things like that, which I think are going to be an agenda in the future going forward.
Tell me about what a vaccine passport's going to be, what you think it's going to be in.
Well, like I said, I talked about this in 2019, October 2019, on Perspectives podcast, but that's not on the internet anymore. I don't know if that's for a censorship thing or what, but I knew back in 2019 that within a year there was going to be a big push to get you to vaccinate yourself, and they were going to combine it with your passport. And I knew this information was factual because it was online for me to read on the World Health Organization website and the UN website. So these documents existed. One of them was called Age and Healthily 2030. There's a few different ones.
Do you think they're still available for people to review now?
They're all still available. It's all of it. Everything's available to read. None of it's a secret. You know.
Do you just think people are too busy with their own lives, or the world? Do you think the world's set up in a way? This is a question for you, that we're blinded or distracted by so much bullshit. We don't have, or we choose not to take the time to read these type of things, or to research these type of things.
I think the way the academic system's set up is, you know, you go to school and you're told what's the right and wrong answer, and the people who are good at memorising and regurgitating, like I am, you know, typically score higher grades, and then they're funneled, they're normally quite compliant, aren't they? They're funneled into the jobs in science, big tech, government, media, and then, you know, they're just too smart to be fooled. So, you know, I've had conversations where I'll go, right, they're going to bring a vaccine out next year. Nah, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't try and do this, or whatever it is. No, they wouldn't do that. And then when I provide the proof what it happens, they say, yeah, but they need to do that. They've got to do that. Like, doing it to help you. So you can't win with most people. That just.
Do you think people try and justify what they say? Because it's like, oh, they said we need to do this, or they said we need to do that. Who's they? Do you know what I mean? It's when it's come down from the expert. It's the expert, isn't it? From a government order, or
it's the authority,
some form of authority, some sort of body. People just straight away take that as that's gospel. This is what's happening. This is what's got to be done.
Definitely.
But it's where's the knowledge behind it, or trying to get the right one for words, but. Just because a piece of information is being handed to you from a certain body or a certain government body, it doesn't mean that that's the way it should be, or that's the way it will be. But a lot of people just comply straight away, and that's what 100%. Gives it the energy to become what it becomes.
Yeah.
I'm going to touch on this a little bit later. We just all won't go too deep with it now, but you've got a youth scheme in the gym where you work, where you bring young children through and give them a pathway. Obviously with the discipline you're doing, MMA and stuff like that, you try and educate kids on the way of the world and that.
Not really. That's not
a place for you, position for you.
That's not what when I'm at the gym and what I'm doing there.
It's completely different.
It's about a pathway in education in combat sport. So the whole point of that development.
But you think if a kid, I've sort of asked that in the wrong way, I'll ask it again. If you've got a student who's sort of under your tutelage and you grow a bond with them because you're training them and you're coaching them and you know they're advancing, if they are speaking to you about your worldview or the way you will, would you be honest with them and tell them what you think of it?
Yeah, and I'm also honest with the parents. So these are conversations I'm more likely to have with mum and dad that we're having. Do you know what I mean? The kids obviously ask me stuff, and I try and just encourage them to think for themselves, do you know what I mean? But I don't think you send your kid to school to learn about gender ideology or my personal views either. So I think it's important that my MMA program, you know, it's designed to get the kids into fighting, university, coaching, or a role within the industry, like judging, refereeing, working in media. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think...
So that's my job there, is to prepare them for that.
Do you think the school curriculum's wrong?
I don't think it's wrong, but I just think it's not for everyone, is it? I think home education suits some kids better. I think alternative provision suits some kids better. And for some kids,
it's too generic.
Mainstream school's perfect for them. But at times, we're asking a goldfish to climb a tree, aren't we? Because not all kids are the same. And I don't think school plays to a young person's strengths. It sits them at a desk for 6 hours a day. And that just can't be good for your childhood. That's like 65% of your childhood spent at a desk in school. Do you know what I mean? I think if anything, knows that does is prepares us for the system that...
The mundane.
The week, the work week. Do you know much about etymology?
No, educate me,
I
please.
talk about etymology all the time, but
Please tell me about etymology.
Why do you reckon it's called the week? Monday to Friday is the week, isn't it? What are you when you're weak? What makes you weak? Going to work.
Yeah, there's different meanings behind these words.
Why is it called the weekend? Because you're weakened from being at work all week. So it's just like, you know, these little things just make me laugh. There's a few more on them like that are just really interesting. But yeah, I think the school systems are not for everybody, but it can also be really good for some people. Do you know what I mean? So it's all about trying to, it's like when you're being a fighter when you're a coach, you should be looking to have an athlete-centered approach. If you're a doctor, you should have a patient, you know, you want precision medicine or precision coaching, or you want it tailored for you. And obviously if you've got an education system that has to educate every kid with the same thing, how can it be precision education? Do you know what I mean?
Do you think that's why your athletes are so prosperous through your training, Dean? Because you've got the academic brain behind what you're doing, but alongside the physical preparation, and that's going into the physical preparation more than just let's just kill ourselves and work out. You're training smarter and working. It's precision. It's developed for that particular.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you don't need to have gone to uni to be a world-class coach, but it's definitely helped me anyway, and it's definitely helped me understand the coaching process. I think, like, as a coach, it's easy sometimes to want to give students new information all the time. Oh, here's this new technique, here's this new move, or I've seen this on the weekend, or, you know, this guy's doing this, and that's great because it brings lots of new information into the fighter's, you know, skill set potentially. But for me, the more skilled coaches, or the higher level coaches, they're going to look at what you do already and they're going to diagnose, they're going to run some diagnostics on it, and that's just visually looking at what you're doing and then breaking down the biomechanics. So is your stance too wide? Because if it is, you're going to lose power. Do you know what I mean? Or you're not rotating fully on your shots. What's your hand position like? How are you managing distance? So they're bits of feedback that you can give a fighter that's going to propel his game more than saying, look at all these new techniques I'm bringing in.
Repetition's key and getting the fundamentals correct. If you've got the fundamentals correct and the foundations right, the sky's the limit.
100%.
But a lot of people in the modern day are getting carried away with, oh, look what Lomachenko was doing, but it's like, let's just peel it back and let's just get the basics right and get a proper
100%.
And then you can work on style further down the line.
You got to build the foundations first. I think when you're going into a sport like MMA, the first few years of your training, obviously there's a lot of information to absorb, loads of it. But once you've got the fundamentals down, it's not about the quantity of information anymore, the quality of training and how you're, you know, refining those movement patterns or those techniques. And are you doing it in scenarios and situations that replicate a live scenario? Good. Do you know what I mean? And that's where the real magic happens for development.
When I had Liam McCracken on, which was not too long ago, we'll touch on that a little bit later on, but I spoken to him about it, and I spoke to Curtis Campbell about it, saying about like boxing's really hard sport, all combat sports are, but MMA, there's so many variables. There's striking, there's groundwork, there's jits, there's loads that goes in. So it must be, like, I think it is probably the hardest sport in the world, because it must be really difficult to try and deal with all that information going in and then trying to work out a puzzle that's in front of you with somebody else who's got a fuckload of information as well. It's a game of chess, innit? And you're both trying to put it on each other, and it's trying to work out what works best, you know what I mean? And when it gets really competitive at the elite level, you could probably replay things and you'll get different outcomes, different times the more you replayed it, because you could smash someone with striking, but they might have much better groundwork, but they didn't get that chance. Next time they might. So there's so many different components to play with.
That's why I love it, mate. It's like, if you think about your training, I call it your training diet. So what's your training diet like? Well, people are like, what do you mean, what's my training diet like? And it's like, are you doing the same stuff all the time? Because if you put a bit of variation in, it keeps it exciting. So like, I used to box as a kid when I was a youngster, and obviously I love boxing, but we literally done running, footwork, bag work, pads, skipping. That was kind of what my amateur boxing career was built around, which is sound, but right now that's a minuscule part of my training. Now I have to do jiu-jitsu, wrestling, obviously full MMA classes, kickboxing, boxing, strength conditioning.
Is it difficult to manage all that, because I just know from like obviously low level, when I've boxed, it's like sometimes there's a lot less variables in boxing, as you've just said, and sometimes it's trying to manage like, well, what am I going to work on this week, because I've got 3 weeks to get ready for this bout. So obviously fitness is like a pillar behind the fucking, that's got to be right, you've got to be fit, so I'm going to definitely make time for fitness. So I'll get road work in the morning or whatever I'm doing, and then I'll be like, right, okay Sam, well I need to work on, there might be certain things I need to work on, just like one part of it, I drop that out when I throw that, so I'll have time, tech work. And then like, you know, you might put strength and conditioning. Sometimes it's like you're trying to find time to fit everything in what you want to do. So then you've got to sacrifice things where it's like, well, I haven't got as much time to work on that, so I'll work on that because I feel that's more important. It must be a fucking a logistical nightmare trying to fit everything in. Dean.
Before I went to uni, obviously I just let the coaches do that for me. But going to uni and then learning about periodization, which is like how to structure your training. So that it, like, obviously a footballer can, you know, plays football every weekend for a season, which is a totally different preparation program for someone who's competing 3 times a year, 4 times a year, you know, with a 3-month prep for that, not just 1 week to get ready for the next game. So you'd have to look at the sport, the demands of the sport, and then obviously your own
sport specific.
Keep it sport specific, yeah. And then you'd have to understand your own game, where you're at, and then that should help you create a training program that's efficient and effective. Do you know what I mean? A good way to look at it, you touched on some of them then, but if we think about athletic performance and break it up into 4 key pillars, being technique, so that's how you do things; tactics, which is how you employ them best to your ability and your body type, and you know what I mean, are you southpaw, are you short range, are you blah blah blah. Physiology, which is obviously your strength conditioning, your mobility, you know, going and getting a massage, anything to do with improving your body. And then psychology, which, you know, when you're competing is number one, really. And I remember being at uni and we used to talk about them like they were equals. And then I was reading a book not too long ago, and it was talking about how really, realistically, psychology is on its own. And then you've got them 3 there, because your motivation will determine how hard you work, and your physiology. Your cognitive processing ability will affect how quick you develop technique. Your
confidence will affect how you apply them when push comes to shove.
How you perform on the day.
Hi guys, it's Jack here from Shake the Mic. I'd just like to say a massive shout out to our sponsors, Green Lane Blinds and Zor Healing. This podcast would not be possible without them. If you haven't already, look at the link description below and check them out.
How do you work on your mentality? How do you work on your mindset?
So I think what I would say is typically people will do this naturally anyway. But again, going to uni and being fortunate enough to study a bit of sports psychology, the biggest tool that I can think of is self-talk and like visualizations. Do you know what I mean? And again, we do that for anything. You've got a driving test coming up, you need to be visualising it. Also, you've got an exam up, you need to be running through the things on your exam. Fighting's the same, do you know what I mean?
Do you visualise the event before it's happened? Do you visualise how it's going to take place?
Every single night. Once I've got the fight locked in, the date, the opponent, then once I'm in bed, like the fight happens in my head and my breathing changes and I'm moving and obviously I've got really good at it now. So when you are doing your visualizations, you want to try and, you know, if you've fought in this arena before and it smells a certain way, imagine the smell. Do you know what short you're wearing? Who are your sponsors? Well, make sure as you're visualising it, even the kit's correct.
When you arrive, do you feel like you've been there before?
Always. And then like, I start, like, I might have a few butterflies like the day before, going, oh, it's happening. But then on fight day, it's just like, bump, I'm in work. And then I start to think, wow, that's mad how I'm fighting in like 10 minutes and I feel like I'm talking to you now on this podcast. And then I'm in the cage looking at him and I'm going, yeah, I kind of wish I was nervous, but well, this is just because I'm meant to be here. So that's honestly, I don't have any nerves at all now, like I did.
Do you think evidence provides confidence? Like, so, if you've been somewhere before, if you've had an output and every time you've had an input and every time you've got a similar result, it's like, you know, if you follow these steps and you do this, last time it worked, the time before it worked. Yeah. So that subconsciously, develops a confidence where it's like, I'm going to put it on him and this is how it's going down.
That's it. I think just like, it's a belief in your preparation, isn't it? Confidence, it comes second. There's, again, so I'm just 4 C's. If you're an athlete, you want these 4 C's. Commitment, turning up all the time, that's obviously massive. Concentration, so the ability to concentrate, whether it's on the mat or in the cage. Emotional control, so not losing your head, knowing how to concentrate under pressure. And then the last one being confidence. So they're your 4 C's, but realistically those other 3 are what create confidence. You can't be confident but you're not committed. Now you're just arrogant.
Yeah.
Are you with me? Like that's last. So I just think if you get all the other stuff right, then there you go. And I think for me as well, like probably most fights bar 1 or 2, I've gone into the fight with the mindset that I've done everything I can here. So if I lose, why have I got to be
no stone left unturned? This is the hill I die on.
The other, well, if I lose, the other guy must have been better than me. I've done my best.
You don't want excuses. You don't want to be going in half prepared and you come out and you say to yourself, yeah, if I would have done this a little bit more, if I would have worked a little bit harder, if I would have got up, if I would have ran, they're all woulda, coulda, shouldas, and then it leaves you wanting, it leaves that thing in your mind where if you give it everything you've got and you give it all when you're in there, if you lose, you lost to the better man. And
I can live with myself when that's the case, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was Mike Tyson who said like how the crisis is in a man when he loses to himself and not to an opponent.
Yeah.
And there's no true saying. 2023 was a big year for you personally, especially for your own professional fighting career as you came back from a 4-year layoff with a bang. Let's talk about your first fight back. What a way to reintroduce yourself. It was an emphatic stoppage win over Miguel Harrow in just 13 seconds. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
So, I wasn't thinking about coming back. I was quite happy at the time, like with all the stuff we do at the gym. I felt really fulfilled, like my purpose was being met.
Yeah.
And as I said before, like my identity wasn't defined solely on being a fighter anymore. Like,
a lot of fighters struggle with that, don't they, Dean? You know, if they've been a fighter for so long, it's all they know and it makes them feel relevant. And when they come away, that feeling of relevance goes away and the feeling of purpose with having something to do also dies with it and they just get lost.
Exactly. But I didn't have that sense of loss or not, and I was happy. I was on the mat. I was getting my ass kicked by the likes of McCracken all the time. So I was getting me fix in terms of like I'm sparring still.
Yeah.
I'm going to the shows, so I'm in the corner. I'm that close to the fight. I'm feeling the emotions of winning when the lads win, and I'm feeling like I've lost when the lads lose. So being a coach and being so hands-on with the sport, like I'm gonna be happy when I'm not fighting still. That's nice to know about my job. However, there's always a little like I am a fighter at heart, don't get me wrong. I thrive in that environment. I enjoy fighting.
You
I'm
miss
not
it.
gonna lie. And I'd had a little bit of time out. I'd had a broken jaw. I broke my jaw in 2019.
Touch on that later as well.
Yeah, so that had healed. The pandemic started, which that was like a personal fight for me.
Stole everyone's time, didn't it, as well?
It did, and I don't think I could have fought during that because I wanted to make people aware of the information that I'd learned.
Did that become your fight? That become your thing?
Yeah, and like we were in a constant battle with you know, the local authority about should we be allowed to be open, because we did run some stuff for vulnerable kids and stuff like that. So, but you know, so that was a fight in itself. But by the time I spoke to my friend Gustavo Firmino, he was a Brazilian guy who's now my manager. He said, "Oh, bro, we really need to get you fighting. Like, you're gonna look back and regret this." And he wasn't working in management at the time, but he said, "I'm looking to switch over to being in management." He was working with Block Assets, and I said, "I'll tell you what, if you can get me X amount of money, televised fight, international, then I'll think about it." And he said, "No, brother, no problem, brother. I can do that. I can do that for you." So I was like, I don't think you can, but go on then." And then he let
Gustavo came through.
Said, "Bro, we've got a fight in 7 weeks. Your management contract's in your emails, and so is your contract for Hexagon MMA." And I was like,
did your heart beat again?
Straight away, I got butterflies. I was like, oh shit, I'm fighting again. And then I was a bit like,
there's no feeling like that though, is there?
I've still got it though. And I was like, yeah, you've definitely still got it, you know, you'd have. But I only had about 7 weeks to get ready, so.
You definitely did still have it. It was a blink and you'll miss it moment. It happened so fast. But I watched the replay And it was lovely to watch, Dean. There was like little parries, slips, little catch counters, and how you adjusted your feet to create that angle and then get a little bit of your own off. It was a pleasure to watch, and it was a real showcase of elite level skill with a live opponent in a real time scenario. You can see how much you've honed your craft, because when it was slow, when it was played in full speed, it was like, whoa, what happened there? I had to watch it again, like a little slip from the inside, bang, and how you twisted your feet, bang, bang. You'd even start to hold his head, you put your hand behind his head when you try to catch him, and I was like, this kid's done his own work. He's done this a few times. Yeah. It weren't your first rodeo, was it, lad? No. And you really could see that. Let's talk about the power of thought, and with me saying before, you're a bit of a Nostradamus. Super excited to be back. These are your words. It almost never happened for me, but the right opportunity came with Hexagon, and I'm so glad it did. I've been enjoying the process, training smart. I expect to finish Harrow within 2 rounds and collect the Hexagon belt in my next fight. That thought projection manifested itself into reality. You followed up with the necessary actions, and it came to be. Do you believe in the law of attraction?
Yeah, but it's got different names.
What do you call it?
Call it what you want. I call it visualizations. No, it's not the law of attraction. It's the power of my mind. You know what I mean? I guess it's all the same.
Projected out there.
Meditation, prayer. It's all the same thing, mate. It's all the same.
To say a prediction like that, though, to say, listen, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to stop him in 2. You stopped him in 1, and I'm going to win that belt in the next fight.
Yeah, I don't think it's that good of a prediction. I think what you got to think about is, I'm someone who understands the level of the game, and I understand what the elite level looks like, and I know about every level between, and I know where I am, and I'm definitely on the fringe of that elite level.
This is what I wanted to ask you, because I wanted to get inside your head, because I was thinking about it when I was having a look at you before you come on the podcast, right? I've boxed before, and when they've said to me, look, you're boxing, blah, blah, I've looked at that opponent, and I don't give a fuck who it is or where he's from or whatever. Straight away, I'll get butterflies, and I'll look at what he does well, and I'll be thinking, shit, he can bang a little bit there. You know, like if he throws that right hand, he looks strong there. And then the level of them opponents are nothing like the level of the opponents you're fighting, they're much lower. So when I'm looking at them opponents you're in with, I'm looking thinking, he looks like a fucking killer. Like, you can see that, the good athletes, lad. And when you're looking at someone like that, Dean, and you know that's who you're getting into fight, there must be a serious belief in your own level of ability to be able to look at someone like that and say, yeah, that'll be a pleasure to share the cage with him, and I'm up for it.
Yeah, no, mate, I just knew the level that of opponent that was going to get given to me. Like, after the last fight where I won by decision, I was literally, my corner team kept telling me off, go and sort yourself out after it. If you come and saw me in the back, you might have thought I lost. I was fucking eating myself up bad for not finishing him. Like, I was like, oh, fucked it. I've absolutely fucked it here. I didn't even put him away. That was a snooze fest of a fight. Do you know what I mean? So they're the standards I'm holding myself to. The fight needs to be exciting, and I need to be looking like I'm trying to blast people out of there.
But you are.
And you'd have to stick someone in front of me who I'm like, right, this guy's top 50, top 40 fighters in the world for me to go, right, shit, me work's cut out here. Those last 3 fights, I feel like I haven't lost a moment. There's not 1 second in my last 3 fights where I haven't been like completely in control.
What a place to do it. What was that arena like? What an opportunity to fight in there and showcase your skills. It was like Gladiator. Where was that? It was France?
That was south of France, so it was lovely weather. They'd cancelled the event as well, like 8 weeks before, because they said there was going to be bad weather. On fight week, I was ready to go. I'd done a 12-week camp for a 5-rounder. It was Tuesday. I was eating fucking eggs and salmon, like you know.
You were ready.
My bags were packed. I was going that night. And they just messaged saying, Dean, don't go to the airport, the fight's off. And I was just like, wow, someone speak some sense. And it said the weather, and I looked and it was like proper low chance of rain. So I was fuming about it. Like, I couldn't get my head around it.
Did it take a bit to process that?
Oh yeah, I was dead upset, like, and they said no, it's going to be rescheduled. So it got rescheduled months later. So basically, but I was like, right, I'm super fit, the work carries on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you got everything that was in that camp weren't lost. It's just going into this one as well. So he's going to be getting more.
So I've done a camp for a 5 rounder, which obviously you need to work a lot harder if you're potentially fighting 5 rounds. But historically, I've done some big weight cuts and I've gassed in the last round. Like, I've never lost first or second round of a fight. I've only ever lost round 3.
Yeah, and that's where do you think that's where the weight cuts affected you?
Yeah, but I feel like I've got it right now. This time.
What can I see?
That last fight was a bantamweight. Felt great in the weight cut, and I still had good energy in round 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you normally do featherweight, don't you? Am I right in saying that?
I've done featherweight. I've done this year. I've done 63 and a half.
You do around 61 kilos. You're the first size at that weight, aren't you?
I'm as big as they come at 61 kg. Like, but
where are you more comfortable? Where would you see yourself fighting moving forward?
Well, this next opportunity that's probably coming down the pipeline is going to be a bantamweight. I feel like if it's elite level, then that's probably where I need to be competing.
And what weight is that, kilograms wise?
61.8 kg. I think 61.2 if it's a title fight. But I nearly made 61.2 this time, and I looked fresh. And my arms were tired in round 3 of the fight, which obviously you're still going to be tired.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. The one in the bull ring, there wasn't much grappling in that fight, so I wasn't tired at all. I remember going back to the corner saying, "Oh, I hope this goes 5 rounds, just so I can say I've done it."
Is it the grappling that fucks you doing, do you think?
It's way more expenditure of energy than it is. Like, I feel like striking's like running and grappling's like CrossFit. Do you know what I mean?
Different worlds.
Yeah, like one can make you sick. Do you know what I mean? Where striking's like a fast-paced jogging. Wrestling's like a
but striking has impact on it, like on you as well, I'm saying. So with the grappling, don't get me wrong, but you win fights and it wears you down and it must be really, really tough. But if you're in with a good striker and he can bang, you've got to be on your mettle, because 1 second changes things and it's more of a concentration. Then again, I suppose it's a concentration game with the grappling, because one wrong move and you fucking...
Exactly. No, it's a cutthroat sport, like.
Give us the feels. You became the Hexagon featherweight champion. Walk us through the whole thing and how it felt to win that strap and have your hand raised again. You're back.
Yeah, no, again, like I just knew it was gonna be. Do you know what I mean? I'd visualised myself getting my hand raised. I just knew. Honestly, I just knew for a fact I was gonna win that belt. There wasn't again, no disrespect to my opponent, but watching his fights, there wasn't one smidge of me being that was like, this guy can put it on me. This guy can beat me. I was just looking. He's fucked him, man. No matter where this fight goes, he's just like not on the level that I'm at. Do you know what I mean? So
that's interesting to see how confident you are. Let's turn the clock back to where it all began and get to know you a little bit better. Where are you from?
So I'm from Speke originally. Yeah, grew up in Speke, born and bred.
You were born in the summertime, 1988.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in Speke in the 90s?
To be honest, I actually lived in Australia for 5 years. So I lived in Adelaide as a youngster, so I've got Australian citizenship, and my two sisters and my brother all live in Australia.
How old were you when you went there?
About 1.5.
Wow.
Come back when I was like 4.5, 5.
All right, mate.
So I've got good eye, mate. Yeah. So I've got my Aussie citizenship, which is nice. But then, yeah, growing up in Speke, mate, it was you know, like probably most kids, I had a good enough home life. I had a good family. My half fella was a bit of a mad one, like, but mostly my mum made sure we had what we needed. Do you know what I mean?
What were your interests back then, as a kid? What were you into?
Climbing. Used to climb all the buildings in Speke, the schools, when I was like 10 to 14, 13, we used to just love climbing stuff. And started boxing when I was 10 as well.
How did you find MMA or fighting? You know, the love that you've spent so much of your life involved in. Was it boxing that first sort of lit the flame?
Boxing first. I got
what made you go to the boxing gym?
Well, I was getting picked on by my mates now. Like they were my mates then, but basically I had a couple of bullies in primary school who just happened to be my mates. I was still good mates now, but I used to get picked on quite a bit. And one day I just ended up standing up for myself, and one of the bullies got his ass kicked, and I was like, do you know what, I could probably have a little go. And a few of the lads were already going to boxing, so I just went down to the Gemini and Speak, and I loved it. And I was
that where it began?
That's where it began for me. But I bailed it at like 12, 13. I had a few fights, mixed record, but I was really good at it. But I just like, I don't know, I was starting to like get into like, you know, having a bevy on the street and all that, like youngsters do.
So your head was turned in that sense.
Playing out basically with.
You were being a kid, you were doing what kids do, and you don't when you're in with that in crowd at that time and stuff like that, and you're in with that type of circle. The last thing you want to be doing is going to the gym. You want to be going to the park, don't you?
Well, that's why we'd be going to the park.
A few bottles of Lamborghini and that.
Or just climb and stuff again, you know what I mean? So we used to just we used to walk about on the estate and probably cause a bit of havoc because we were bored.
How did you find your way back into fighting? When did it become like more serious for you? When did you like go, right, okay, sound, I want to be a fighter? How did that come to be?
Do you know what? I was watching when I was boxing at the time, so I was still only about 11, 12, but UFC was on Bravo, and I think Chuck Liddell was fighting Randy Couture.
Chuck Liddell's a geezer.
And I was just like watching it going, wow, this is so much better than boxing. It made me just look at boxing as no longer a fight sport. It was like boxing's just like, it's a sport, and then that's a fight sport.
The fighters.
Like in boxing, you can't boot them, you can't elbow them.
I remember the first time I think I watched UFC years ago. I think it was Clay Guida, and I was like, whoa, this fella's a fucking animal, you know what I mean? Scary guy.
Yeah, great guy to watch.
Yeah. And I think it was Diego Sanchez or something.
That's actually my favourite fight ever in UFC.
Killing each other,
what a fight that is.
What a fight. And I was just like, oh my God.
I was literally about to ask you, was it Sanchez?
Sanchez, yeah. He had the white shorts on, there's blood everywhere, and the two of them were just killing each other.
Crazy.
And I was just like, wow, that was my introduction to it. So I was interested from there on in, so I can see where that love came from. What happened? Did you go to the gym? How did you get into it?
Yeah, so I was just like, we actually went to Thailand with a group of mates, out 13 of us, and we were in Koh Phi Phi, I think it's called, and they've got this bar where you can just fight your mates or fight people out of the crowd. Obviously I hadn't done nothing for a while, like, but one of the lads was always like, we always had this joke, who's the alpha out of the boys, you know what I mean? I was say, I'm the fucking alpha lad, and he'd be like, nah, I am. So I was like, sound, come on then, we're getting in here and we're gonna have it. He was like, fuck it, let's do it. And I popped his nose, I think, with the first jab anyway, but I just remember thinking, do you know what, I enjoyed that, and like, when I got back, I just Googled where I could train, and obviously, I was shocked to see there was a few places in the city I could go and do it, and that was it.
Where did you start?
I went down to Next Gen. I just started there. Jason Tam was teaching the class the first day I went down, and I was just like, wow, I was blown away, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do with my future. This is me.
How old was you at that point?
19, and I just started real estate or accountancy, one of the two, in uni, and I was like, I'm doing this. And then the next day I went, I was like thinking, fucking hell, he's getting paid to teach this class here. He's just showing me how to twist someone up, basically, and I'd love to do that as a profession. So I knew then I was going to be, well, wanted to be a coach anyway, do you know what I mean?
It's inspiring to hear that as well, because there's a lot of people who follow the wrong paths for like because they can say, oh, I'm an accountant or I'm a teacher or whatever, because it feels like you know, it's pleasing, where like you've just went, you know what, fuck all that, yeah, I am educated and I have got an opportunity to do that, but I'm gonna do what I love.
Yeah.
Some people are scared to do what they love, you know.
They are, you know, and like me, I had this conversation with my brother at the time. My older brother, he used to say, don't listen to me, alpha, he's an accountant, or he works in a software accountant, you know, and he just says, like, he was saying to me at the time, sorry, do something you enjoy, because going to work just to make money is not why you want to wake up in the morning.
If you do something you love, it makes your heart beat, doesn't it?
It's like having a hobby that keeps you fit.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Let you be creative and earn your money.
When you wake up on a Monday morning, you feel energized.
Yeah, because
I feel excited.
On a Monday morning, one of my favourite tests, if not my favourite session of the week. So I wake up on a Monday morning.
Your Monday morning, some people's Friday night. And if you're living for the fucking weekend, you're living the wrong life.
No, exactly. Like, sometimes I'm bored on the weekend waiting for Monday to come.
I want it to come. What's the session on Monday morning?
It's Phil Turner, me head coach and business partner. It's his grappling class, but you usually have to do 5 5s, rolling, like grappling on the ground with punches. My favourite type of training to do is jiu-jitsu, but with punches. You know what I mean? That's probably the most enjoyable thing for me.
Because it's graft and it's
graft, but it's just like, I just love the way it's like chess. Like, on the feet, you know, you can move and you can get out of the way, and like sometimes it's horrible to get a stiff jab in the nose and you can go home with a headache. And whereas on the ground, it's a lot easier to control everything and control the variables and pin people. And so I just proper enjoy that.
You thrive on that.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
You look forward to it. How did Aspire come to be? How did you become the co-owner of such a fantastic space? How did that happen?
So I just wasn't happy with the way things were for myself at Next Gen, and decided, you know, me, Aaron Robinson, Danny Roberts, we went and trained up with Phil at LBT, which was in Aintree at the time. So that was a gym up there, and then I just knew I wanted to open something sort of more central in Liverpool, and I knew that I wanted it to break into the education space. I remember on my degree, we used to always get guest speakers come in and speak to us, and someone came in from Everton in the community, and that just left a bit. They talked about what they do with alternative provision, and I was like, wow, I can just rob all that football model of how they bring young footballers through their academies with qualifications, and I can just repurpose that for MMA. And so when we opened the gym, that's why like I came up with the name Aspire. There was Danny Roberts, who, it was on the tip of my tongue, but I remember me, Aaron and Danny were like, oh, we call this gym. I was like, it's this word where you all have a mutual, it's where you all want to get better. And he was like, Aspire. And I was like, that's it. Or he said aspirations, and I was like, that's it, Aspire. And I just like the idea of it being called an academy, and you know, it's a multi-combat sport, MMA, isn't it?
Aspire
really?
Combat Sports Academy, it's called, isn't it?
It was born then, and then we made it happen.
What a place as well. It's a big space, isn't it?
It's massive. Like, we just knocked into the
It's just at the end of the M62, right on the way into Liverpool, right on the way out of Liverpool.
Yeah,
it's a
location.
Really good location.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about it, and like what the type of classes are in there, what the setup is in there? Can anybody go there, Dean?
Yeah, so it's open to kids as young as 3. So Little Ninjas program is all about like developing the fundamental movement skills, fine motor skills, confidence. So that's more about, like, you know, the base of the pyramid is getting them in the first place, so they're participating. And, you know, kids learn through play and engagement. And what we try to do with our kids' classes, make it fun. Obviously, it's based around martial arts, but the main, you know, underpinning priority for us is developing the kid all round as an athlete. And that starts with fundamental movement skills. Whereas there are some other cracking kids classes as well that you go to, but the emphasis is actually on performance, even though they're like 6 and 7, which I'm not saying is wrong. I'm just saying where we sit in the market is way more
engagement.
Like, like we just want to get them in
involvement.
Early. Like, don't get me wrong, it'd be nice to have a team of 7-year-old killers, and there's some gyms that do.
But it's just about them taking part.
That's not where my energy is right now. Do you know what I mean?
I think your energy's in the right space there.
Mine's more focused on 14 to 16, because I know that's more. There's a lot of kids now who are like 7, 8 who are the best in the world already in Liverpool. But the chances of them getting athlete burnout are significantly higher than someone who's going to start the sport at 14.
It can be too much pressure too early. It can
100%.
be too much. As I said, I've got 3 boys now who are like, and you know what? Just to get them off the computers will win, lad. So they're not sitting there on a PlayStation all night. Yeah. So if you're getting them down and they're doing something and they're taking part in something, that's a win. And as they get engaged in it more, and as they become to like it more, then they'll just naturally progress into taking it more seriously. And then when they get to a certain age, you can go, okay, I can become more serious now, because you've stuck at it and it's something that you want to do, and you can let them sort of run with it, where you'll get kids who come in, they might be really serious about it at 7. By the time they're 14, they hate it, because it's just been that much pressure, it's been that much, there's been that much discipline and dedication to it, and then now the mates are out playing and doing whatever, and they're like, I can't be arsed with this. But if you roll them back a little bit longer, when that discipline does kick in, and the young adults, they've got much more chance of a spot. I know so many kids who have went, he's a world beater. I've seen him in the gym and being like, yeah, he's a great kid, blah, blah, blah. But it's a bit early, and they don't end up becoming something. Yeah. And you might see another kid who's like a bit run-of-the-mill, 12, 13, and they turn into a fucking world beater.
Yeah, no, it happens, mate. Like, when we think about sport, we have a development continuum where you come in and you hopefully end up at the top, but that first bottom segment of the pyramid's just about getting into it, the foundation. Then you're moving on to participating regularly, you know, and that should be intrinsically motivated at this point. If you're taking your kids to something and you're constantly having to force them to go, take them to something else. You know what I mean? But you've got to start foundation, participation, performance and elite. And what happens is some of these poor kids come in at the bottom, but they've got to deal with all the pressures of the elite side already. The need to compete and the need to win. And it can be stressful. Some kids absolutely thrive on it. So it's just, you know, it's what works for different people.
It's no generic rule, and it's down to the individual.
Definitely. But just touching on that, mate, like, say we bring them in as young as 3, and then we obviously have classes for adults who are completely beginners. I love seeing like some of the dads in the gym who you would call them just regular, you know, the regular dads, mate. They've got, they work as electricians, or they've got a marketing company or whatever, but they're like a purple or brown belt in jiu-jitsu. They're catching me with subs in the gym. Their own kids are in the gym. And I just love that family feel of it. You know what I mean?
Do you know these kids, these men who've become purple belts or brown belts, and they're catching you with subs? Did they come in with the intention to bring their kids in? Some of them first.
Most of them, yeah.
And then it's like, this is half decent, this, and you're like, I get down if you want.
I'm always pushing jiu-jitsu to people, because I just think it's the best martial art. If there's one martial art to train, it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
It's something I've never tried, and there's so many people who say to me, Jack, it's heavy, you know what I mean?
So good, lad. Like, I'll never stop doing grappling, mate.
A lot of people, when they start, that's it, they say, like, I'll never stop. It's
a sport for the ages, do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's powerful, and obviously if you get them at 14 to 16, they've got 2 kids at the gym now, Regan Bellamy and Shay Williams. Oh, just unbelievably talented. But again, you know, I see the pressure they're under now, because so much is expected of them, because they're at such a good level, and they handle it brilliantly, by the way. It's not too much pressure for them, but I can see how it must be difficult at times to be that young,
such
have so much expectation.
Well, when you said, I don't know Regan, but I'll have a little look into him, I'll look out for him, because I love anything like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know Shay personally, but I know of Shay, and I've seen him. And like, he's sponsored by Venom. It must be a lot of pressure, but they're the type of kids who seem from the outside, you don't know what's going on in their heads, but from the outside, he seems to thrive on it, and he loves it, you know what I mean?
You've got to thrive on it to do what them two do. Like, they train full time like I do. They get time off school to be at the gym. They do S&C. You know, they go around training everywhere else. So, you know,
you're an amazing coach. You coach some great fighters, one of which I've had on recently, and Liam McCracken. Very unfortunate as well what happened to Liam. He gets better soon.
Yeah, crazy. Really, really crazy story.
I'd like to get Liam on again in the future.
It's a good shout, mate. I'm sure the comeback's going to be big.
The comeback's going to be bigger than the setback, and I'll definitely get him on again in the future, because it's just all going to add to his story. Yeah. I think he's an inspiring, he's an inspiration to me, and he's an incredible lad. He's an incredible athlete, and I think you'll definitely see him on the mat again soon.
100%, mate. 100%.
One name, 2 words. Muhammed Mokaev.
Oh yeah, he's a beast, isn't he? Hey, what a guy. He's a top kid, like.
How did that come to be, Dean? How did you get involved with him?
I've been working with Mo since he was 15. I think I went to the wrestling academy, I was meant to be, I was fighting in Chechnya. I'd been offered the UFC. I spoke to the UFC, and they said, we're booked up a bantamweight. I was 9-0 at the time. And I had an offer off ACB, which is called ACA now, but it was a Chechnya-based promotion. And my manager was like, what do you want to do? Do you want to just wait around for UFC, or do you want to get in there? And this guy he'd beat Peter Yan, and then he just lost to Peter Yan. And he said, basically, if I beat Magomed, then I'm going to be fighting Peter Yan next for the ACB title. So I was like, sounds boss that. I'm not going to wait around for the UFC. Let's get this ACA promotion. They're going to do well. They're going to go around the world, so let's get in there. So
you get about, don't you?
I like to get about, mate.
I've noticed.
So I end up going down the wrestling academy, just trying to be wrestling. That's where I met Mo, and just, you know, he come down the gym, and I remember he trained with Liam and Marlon, and they were a year younger than him, but he had great training with them, and he just seemed keen to want to come back. And
what an unbelievable athlete. It must be a pleasure to be a part of his career.
Right? All of these kids, you know, Shay and Regan we talked about before, right through to the little ones, mate.
Who would you say, in the way of fighters coming through now, who do you think are going to be the faces of tomorrow, Dean?
I still think McCracken's gonna be coming through and shining through very soon. So I think Liam's gonna be a huge face for Scouse MMA going forward. But you know, the likes of Curtis you've had on recently and Connor Walsh, them two are really standing out at the minute. Marlon Jones, another lad from Aspire who's just coming back from injury.
Curtis had nothing but good things to say about Marlon.
He's for
Curtis.
So's Liam. Liam's for
Curtis. I asked him about Liam and he said about the loss to Liam. He was like, I learned so much from it and it helped me develop.
It's great though, isn't it? Because like, it's great that we're in a city now and there's that much like...
Look at them though, there's three of them, they live so closely to each other and look at the talent between the three of them, lad.
It's unbelievable. But what's brilliant for me though is that we are fighting each other because like, you know, I know what Kyle and Jason and all are like. They're like, no, let's test them as amateurs. Do you know what I mean? And let's make them elite level pros and when you do that, it's the best way for the youngsters.
They're not fighting cans, are they?
No, mate, they're fighting anyone and everyone. Like, fighting men when the kids, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Unbelievable athletes.
So, you know, I think they're big names. Obviously, Shay and Regan are like, they are honestly world class. But there's a lot of, it's hard to pick people out because there's so many mates in the city right now. But they're obviously some.
They're the names that come spring to mind.
There's some big names, but there's definitely a few more.
What do you enjoy more, coaching or fighting?
Honestly, I am bang in the middle. I think when I'm fighting, there's a lot of stress that comes with making weight. You know, all this stuff you've got to do. It's fucking hard, mate. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not an easy life. Like, don't think being an MMA fighter is an easy life. There's not loads of money in it. It's fucking hard work. But what I would say is, like, you get the same highs and the lows from the coaching game. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm coaching or fighting, I feel just as invigorated when the lads get big wins, meaningful wins against good opposition.
You've coached them as well, so it's rewarding for you to see, and it's your prodigy, isn't it? It's well, like we've worked hard at this.
You're just happy to be part of it.
Yeah, you're buzzing for them.
You feel like what you're doing is meaningful. Like if you're in work as an accountant and you've just gone, oh, bing, I've just sent that Excel spreadsheet off to the boss there. Oh, I feel absolutely boss about myself now. Said no accountant ever. Do you know what I mean? But there's a bit of glory in what we do.
It's fulfilling, mate. You're shaping the future of MMA, and you're changing the lives of kids, and a lot of kids. It's strange to have you in, like, talking to me now with like an academic background, because a lot of fighters don't have that. I'm not saying
they're still smart though, aren't they?
I'm not saying they're not smart, because they are. They're very, very smart. Yeah. But a lot of them just don't put... I'm not saying all of them either, because you can't say that, but I'm saying a lot who I've spoken to don't seem to put pen to paper well, or they may do, but they just didn't enjoy it. Where you've got both sides to you.
And with the course though, mate, what we try and do there is harness both of them things and together, synergize them. And
a lot of kids who don't do well academically or don't want to do well academically, even if they can't, they find the wrong roads or other paths, and you're giving them another outlook to say, yeah, look, hang on a minute, see all that energy you've got here, you can fucking channel this into this, and you can do something with this, you know. Definitely. And they're like, yeah, and it's giving them direction, and that's massively important. There's so much more to fighting in the skill set, isn't there? In your opinion, what does it take to be a successful fighter, Dean?
So what I would say is, like, skills aren't that relevant at the top anymore. This is how I see it now, right? If you're an elite level fighter or a world class level fighter, right? Let's just say there's the top bunch of fighters in the world, right? They've all got a certain level of skill, all of them. If you took them all on pads, you wouldn't be able to tell who's the best, would you?
No.
Do you know what I mean? So what separates the elite from the guys who are just a level below is this
mindset.
Do you know what I mean? It's resilience, decision making, commitment. It's like these things are what shine through, and I think resilience is probably one of the biggest ones. Do you know what I mean? I think like Mo's a good example of this. Like, I'm sure you've seen that knee bar.
We'll pull that up.
Yeah, absolutely horrific. I genuinely looked
His
away in the
leg
corner.
bent.
I just looked away because I couldn't look at it anymore, and I also knew that he wouldn't tap. So when I was watching it, I imagined it was about to go boom and just go.
His leg it's bent back like a banana, isn't it? It's incredible.
He's always said he'd never tap, and I believe him. But then
99% of people in that situation, mate, they're gonna tap, aren't they?
I'm tapping to that. I've lost twice in my career, in like 20 odd fights, and I tapped both times, and they were only to chokes. So I'm not gonna say it's in that, because a joint lock's worse by a long stretch. Like, it's actual pain. You get put asleep, you go to sleep. It's almost peaceful.
It's commitment though, that, isn't it, to be like in such an uncomfortable position and like you're on that edge, like, should I just tap, should I just give in this moment, and to say no.
Yeah. So I think like resilience is a big skill, but you know what another big skill is, and I think this'll help anyone anyway, is self-reflection. Like, that's probably up there with the skills of any elite fighter. They'll be good at self-reflecting.
Another one that I don't think gets enough airtime, and obviously this is just from an outsider's point of view, is acceptance. Accepting where we are, at what level you're at, and saying, you know what, this is where I am. Okay, Sam, let's work. Sometimes you can get carried away with your own hype and you don't know where you're at, or sometimes if you've had a setback, it can be hard to accept it. It's like, nah, fucking hell, I'm not having that.
This is where a good
team,
team...
accept it, you grow from it.
This is where a good team helps though as well, isn't it? Because obviously, as I said before, to know where you're up to is not always the easiest thing, because you're not looking from outside in. So when you have a good team around you, you get the right advice. It's
good counsel and good guidance.
Yeah, and that's important.
Sacrifice and dedication, they're easy to say, but hard to do. As a fighter, you need both in abundance. To make sacrifices and have dedication, you need passion. You need a why. What's your why? And where does your passion come from?
Yeah, so I think my why's changed. Like, the why to walk in the gym was the desire to be a tough guy and have a tough guy facade. Like, that was my why when I started. Do you know what I mean? Then my why was to be like Paul Sass and Jay McGuinness, who were the pros in the gym at the time. Do you know what I mean? Then my why was to...
Has Paul Sass got a sister called Jenny Sass?
Don't know, but...
I used to do karate with Jenny Sass. Go on.
There you go.
Go on.
Anyway.
Sorry.
No, you're right, lad. But yeah, so I was looking at guys like that, wanting to be like them, and then before you know it, those aspirations just keep shifting, and the horizons get bigger and better, and you just want more and more from it. And
what you say your why is now, do you?
My why now is, obviously I've got kids, so I'm a family man, so my family's everything to me. But now I just want to like actually help people. I actually want to make a difference. I think that's it's a nice feeling, like, to look at some of these kids like Mo. When I was working with him at 15, he's just a little scrawny 15-year-old, and now he's like, he's a top he's top 7-8 in the world, and he's 22.
Think he's ranked 7 or 8 yet now.
Yeah, he's 22 years old. Like, the ambition and self-belief he's got has made me check myself and give me a reality check. Like, do you know what I mean? It made me realise I'm still putting limits on myself now, even with everything I've learned.
Yeah.
And
age is nothing but a number, isn't it? It's the person. It's when you're around someone like that, they can be 19, 20, 21. If their outlook's in a certain way, that's who they are. It can be inspiring.
But I think, like, I use McCracken and Marlon as good examples. Like, again, they've been working with Phil Turner at LVT since they were about 13. I started working with them around that time. So we've seen them be little kids, progress, go to college, do the college program with us, go on to be the lead roles in our kids' classes, to basically helping us run the fight team, to being at the same level I'm at on the mat. So to just see that, to be able to, take a 14, 13-year-old and put them there at 22, where I'm at now at 35.
Progression.
We should be called boys to men. Do you know what I mean? So I just think that's the most powerful thing about what I do, is I get to look back at kids like Shay and Regan, and they're about that big when I'm first getting to train with them, to the point where I'm like walking off the mat going, and I've just lost the round to him there again.
Scary, man. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the most rewarding bit anyway.
It's interesting. Who inspires you? Who inspires you?
Do you know what? Honestly, it's the people around me. I'm not like, I don't have like celebrity fever. I don't look up to fighters that I don't know too much, really. I never have. Do you know what I mean? I find it hard to be inspired by people who have no real connection to what I'm doing. Whereas I know other people do massively go that way. Like, I'm not that type of person. I sometimes, the little wins inspire me more. Do you know what I mean?
If you had to pick a favourite MMA fighter, you could only pick one, whether you know them or whether you don't, like someone who you looked up to or a fighter who's inspired you along the way, or you had to pick one and say him.
Jose Aldo was like someone who I watched and was just like, wow, he's special. You know, he used to look at the floor, didn't he? I don't know if you've seen his fights in WEC, but he was just annihilating people. Amazing he was. So he's probably the
Jose Aldo.
I looked at him and thought, I wish I was like him. In terms of like a fighter.
You're aspired to him.
100% aspired to be like him, like, for sure.
Who coaches the coach? Who coaches you?
Your peers and your own self-reflection, do you know what I mean? Like, you should never stop learning as a coach. Like, we're lucky at Aspire. Like, I don't think, for MMA, so many variables. You need people in your team who are experts in one field, but you also need people in your team who might be jack of all trades, but expert at none. Do you know what I mean?
Who's the team you have around you?
So, myself and Phil. Phil's a black belt, loads of jiu-jitsu experience, and obviously over the last several, like 10 years, he's grown into, you know, being a very proficient MMA coach. So me and Phil are kind of the head coaches at Aspire, but then, you know, we've had a big influence from the likes of Aaron Robinson, Danny Roberts. More recently, we've got guys like Joe Thompson, boxing coach.
Seen you hitting pads with Joe Thompson, just brought you striking on. He's a great pad man. Joe Thompson, Dave's son, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've got Joe, big player in the team. Glenn Blackburn, who owns Alliance Muay Thai. We've got a coach called Ed Bavloch, who's American but from Australia. So we've got boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA and wrestling, jiu-jitsu. So between us as a team, and then we've got guys like Femi and Danny who run our S&C program. So, you know, you got to get a good team around you.
In terms of nutrition, do you sort that yourself?
I use Charlie Mitten.
Charlie Mitten, yeah.
It's best to have. For me, it's not that I don't know what to do. I could write myself a plan out and follow it, but I literally, I need the accountability. I need the support, obviously.
Yeah, most definitely, yeah.
But for me, it's just like, I'm not going to wake up in the morning and someone text me asking me what my weight is, but he will. So then I'm like, shit, I've got to tell him what my weight is here. So it's good to have accountability.
Yeah, it keeps you on track. I think we all need accountability. We all need that somebody to keep you on track and to keep you accountable no matter who you are. You need that. Otherwise, you just start to veer off, don't you? You know what I mean?
100%. And my biggest issue is food. It's always been where I've struggled with discipline. But like going back to what you're saying there about how does the coach learn, you should be looking for any opportunity to pinch. You know, a good coach is just a good thief. As a coach, typically you're made up of like the 5 coaches you probably learned off the most. You'll end up being a blend of those coaches. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, got to learn off your peers and your own self-reflection.
Who's the best coach you think you've ever had? You'd have to pick one, gun to your head.
Well, to be honest, I haven't had that many coaches work with me. Do you know what I mean? Like the likes of Phil, I've worked with Phil since day one. So I've kind of not really gone far outside the team. The team I've got now,
it's the team you've always had.
Yeah, obviously I worked with Jason and Paul at Next Gen, but that was quite early on in my career. Another 2 coaches who had a big influence on me, Danny Widow, boxing coach, who owns No Limits.
Danny's a nice man.
So Danny's had a really big influence on my coaching style. And another guy called
he's Muhammed, a great coach.
Muhammed, he's an Mighty Mo, we call him. He's an Iranian. I think he is the GB wrestling coach now. So he coached me for like 5 years. So I think those guys and the current crop of coaches, Aaron Robinson and Danny.
A coach is more than just a tactician. They're a mentor, aren't they, Dean? Someone who you can talk to, someone who you can look to.
What I would say is, like, I like this example, is a martial arts instructor will give you 2 fish, and a proper coach will give you a fishing rod. You know what I mean? So you've got guys who specifically teach moves, teach sessions, and they're there to put more tools in the box or give you some fish, do you know what I mean? But then, for me, a head coach should help facilitate your own level of autonomy, and that's all about teaching you how to fish. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, as a coach, your job is to help someone reach their full potential. And in a game like MMA, that should be near impossible to do with just one person helping a particular athlete. So, you know, you might need to signpost someone to a different coach. And I just think, like, this is where the old martial arts mindset is starting to meet the new mindset, or the mindset I'm talking about, the growth mindset, has existed in sport for a while now, but in martial arts it's been slow to fester in, and that's because of a lack of academic education. And like, if you're a football coach or a tennis coach or badminton or volleyball coach, you'll probably go online now and register to do a level 1 coaching in there, whereas you can't in martial arts. It's all like, nothing's official.
It's in-house.
Everything's in-house. Everything's like, so there's probably not been enough opportunities for people in our industry to do that. So that's why I'm glad we do offer the course, and now more and more lads from the city, from different gyms, are going to go on to things like university, or, you know, follow different routes within and become an industry leader.
You're giving them a pathway.
It is a pathway, essentially, yeah. Definitely.
It's unbelievable what you're doing. Do you have a pre-fight ritual at all?
No, I'm just very much like I am any other day. There's nothing to do different. I don't walk around with my headphones on. I don't need time on my own. I don't need reassuring. I just literally like act like I'm on any other given day. Same normal conversations.
What's going through your mind when you're walking to that cage?
Just pure relaxation. Honestly, it's like I become a little bit numb to emotion, and there's no fear about losing. There's just literally going, right, you where you're meant to be, and just acceptance of what's about to come. However it plays out now, I've already accepted it. That's how I feel when I'm fighting. Don't get me wrong, fights previous to that, definitely been nervous, questioning myself, but that was early on in the game. You know,
But now,
17 years later.
Yeah. Combat sports is full of highs and lows, and it's great when the going's good, but not when it's going not so smoothly. It can be very testing, and it reveals character. These challenges, they don't always come in the form of a loss. They can come in other ways, such as injuries and so on. Back in 2019 at KHK, you fractured your jaw in more than one place. On the first day you were there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which meant your brave debut weren't to be at that time. How did you deal with that?
That hurt me. That, like, I was in tears. I'd already had a little hiatus because ACA had kind of had a big issue. So I weren't getting fights off them. And I was already in Bahrain for the World Championships because Liam and Mo were both competing in the World Championships for England. So we were over there anyway in Bahrain. And I was doing some extra training with Team KHK, which is Sheikh Khalid's team from Bahrain. And I was training with a guy called Kasum Kasimov, very, very talented bantamweight who trains in Khabib's gym. And he said, don't go with none of these, the beginners. So I was like, sweet, me and you'll stay together. And he was like, we won't even spar properly because you're fighting next week and he's fighting the week after. And we had this lovely flowy 3-5s. I don't know what it was, but I had like last 30 or something off Eldar. And all of a sudden, he just went proper stiff. And all of a sudden, he started trying hard. Like, the flow had gone. And he locked the body lock on me, and I hooked the inside of his leg as like a defense. And he's gone to suplex me, which was kind of a technique that you wouldn't use in rounds, like what we were like. The style of training we'd just been doing. Why would you do a suplex?
Yeah, it was a bit too intense for what.
Like, it's competitive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I like half resisted, he didn't land it properly, and he just landed on my face with his head there. And the feeling was like all my teeth had came out. So at first I was like, my teeth fell out, loads of them. But all my teeth were still in. And I was like, and then I went, oh no, this must be what a broken jaw feels like. Do you know what I mean? So I was just like, oh fucking hell, broke my jaw.
Wow. Do you believe in fate?
To a degree. I think you can change your fate, but
do you think it was meant to happen for a reason? No, there was a bigger picture, maybe. Something around the corner, something you couldn't see.
I don't know. But it did happen, and I had to just accept it and move on with it. And I did. And then, whilst it was healing, the pandemic began. So,
do you think you learned from them things?
to a degree, but sometimes, like, if something's happening to you that you've got no control over and you can't even really react to it any different than you, what can I do? There's nothing I can do. I can't speed it up. I can't fight anyway. There's nothing I can do.
We're back to acceptance, aren't we?
Just accepting what it is and what can I do around it. Okay, I can still be a coach. I can still do fitness training and lift weights and get in shape. So I just done what I could.
Your pro career spanned across 14 years, with your professional debut being in December 2010 to the current day now. Tell us about that, Dean, and when you very first started, when you turned professional, all the way back then. What was that first fight like, and going in there, and what were your views and visions of what was going to come?
Yeah, no, I did believe I had a good career in the sport. I always did. I just knew if I committed, turned up, then I'd do all right. But I remember being so nervous for that first fight. I was actually fighting a journeyman called Nathan Thompson, who went by the name of Chicken. So it was like I was always going to beat him, but strange one. I was meant to be fighting a guy called Ali McRae, and he died in the run up to the fight. He worked in an abattoir. It was a mad story. Like, God bless his soul, you know what I mean? But I was meant to be fighting a guy like him, and obviously the opponent got changed, and he was a good fighter, but he was a debut like I was. And I remember being offered this guy, Nathan Thompson, and he was like 4 wins, 8 losses. And I remember shitting myself because he was so experienced. Oh, he's had 12 pro fights. But obviously, realistically,
Had you had much experience as a
I'd only had 4 amateur fights, and
yeah, so you were
one of them I literally took the night before. So I'd done 3 fight camps. But
how did that decision to turn professional come to be, Dean? Off the back of 4 amateurs, to go, you know what, I'm gonna turn pro and have it with, like,
because of my age and like just where things were at the gym I was in, and yeah, it just seemed like a good idea.
It was a natural progression.
Yeah, it was probably the right move. Like, I had lots of holes in my game, but back then you could. Whereas now you've almost got to turn pro, like proficient in all areas. Back then you could be like a jits guy or a striker, and you'd get away with it if you had the right fights. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think there's a lot more fighters now than there was back then?
100%, mate. It's booming now.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's
how many fighters there actually is.
Yeah, it's blew up just in this city.
Losses happen. It's how you deal with them. And you suffered your first defeat in 2017. How did you deal with that? Tell us about that.
Look, I was devastated, but I just got back on the horse. I think was that the fight in Chechnya.
Yeah, the Magomedov one.
I had a great start to that fight. I rocked him early, I dropped him. I had him hurt. I nearly caught him with a flying knee twice when he was like on chicken legs almost. And then he caught me flush. He countered an inside low kick from southpaw stance that I was in. That was a technique I use a lot, and I'd seen a video of him drilling the counter to it. So the coaches were telling me not to throw it, but I didn't.
You're the type of fighter who tries things, aren't you?
I will do, but the plan was not to throw it, do you know what I mean? Because we'd seen he drilled for it, and it just came out because what you do, don't you? And he countered me and he rocked me bad, and I remember just like there's a bit in the fight where I'm like whoa, what's going on? Just looking, and he's on me back. I've got this like Chechen absolute killer on me back, but I'm just like smiling and laughing, and then Phil said, we knew then like something was up, because
you weren't right.
I'm not someone to show emotion in the cage. I'm just dialed in. I'm doing my job. Do you know what I mean? And then he ended up catching me with a guillotine, which is his move. But I was rocked, and after it I didn't have many regrets. I was like, do you know what?
Do you know when you get put in an uncompromising position like that, you know it's curtains for you, Dean, when them moments do arise?
It was a bit of a weird one with that one, because I was semi like out of it, even when he was choking me. Like, I remember just waking up feeling like I just woke up and he was on top of me, but even though I was half asleep I still managed to wrestle up. But as I wrestled up, that's when he caught the choke. And I just remember being on it, being tight and the feeling stuck. But then the second fight I had lost again to the same choke. But that's a loss that I'm bitter about in myself, because I was, again, if you watch both of them fights, up until the moment I get caught and it goes wrong, I'm in control. But in that fight I'd done a horrible weight cut. I wasn't disciplined enough with my food because it was in Australia, and I was travelling and training and seeing family and friends, and it was just a strange experience. I went out a month early and doubled it up as a holiday. And that lack of discipline on my weight cut caused me to gas in the fight and my decision making went a bit shitty, and I just made the wrong call, and I got caught with a choke again by
Same one, because I seen it on the record. It was like, it was the same lot, same fucking loss.
So
It was a repeat prescription, wasn't it?
It was two different reasons though. So one like I'm pretty hard to guillotine choke, you know what I mean. One time I was rocked.
Yeah,
and to me the cause was throwing that kick in the first place. But the second one, it was the weight cut. It was being gassed. Like being gassed will make a coward of anyone.
Do you think as well it'll fucking knock your concentration? If your concentration's
you
out, it's
focus.
just fucking you're getting caught with stupid shit you shouldn't be getting caught with.
You're not the same fighter. So yeah, they're the two times I've lost. And I also had a draw on Bellator. I was 2 rounds up against Lewis Toster, and then I got 10-8'd in round 3, and that was a draw. So I've only ever really lost the last round or been caught with these 2 guillotines in my career. All the rest have been...
They've all been state wins, haven't they?
Pretty much dominant and everything else. Like,
you've had 15 fights, 12 wins, 2 losses and 1 draw. Am I right in saying that?
That's MMA, but I've also fought 3 times on a hybrid promotion, professional. So that was 5 minutes Muay Thai, changed gloves to MMA, 5 minutes MMA with the same opponent.
Wow.
It was amazing. I won a tournament on that. 1 knockout, 2 e-looks.
Can we find that anywhere?
Yeah, it was on Terrestrial TV at the time. It was called KT MMA, Kick Thai MMA. Yeah, there's still some
footage
of it on YouTube if you type in
I'll
KT
definitely
MMA.
check that out.
Yeah.
What are your hobbies and interests aside from combat sports, Dean?
I've got an allotment which I grow food on the weekend with a few of the boys. That's probably my only real hobby outside fighting, and I do love researching and getting into things that are maybe a bit occult or esoteric in nature, where maybe you're not meant to know stuff about this stuff.
You're a stand-up guy, aren't you? You want to voice your opinion when it comes to world affairs and human rights. Is that a rabbit hole you want to go down?
I think we touched on it a little bit, haven't we?
Is there anything else you want to touch on?
I mean, not particularly.
Okay.
I think, like, obviously, I am genuinely passionate about talking about children's health and safety, you know what I mean, and like...
Is that where you were inspired to grow your own food?
That's
is that a part of the reason?
That's part of the reason, is because I see how the industrial processing and whatever the food today is making us sick. Do you know, like, there's a big attack on red meat and milk and stuff now, dairy, but I think it's the pasteurisation process which actually makes it not the best for us, or the processing, ultra processed red meats like bacon. Whereas if you stick to things like grass-fed meat and
steak,
organic steaks and raw milk, then you're gonna have optimum health. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I just love talking about all these type of things. Yeah,
finding out information, one of your passions.
Defo, I love learning. Like, I'll never stop that. Like,
I love learning. I love asking questions. That's why I'm saying it like that, grilling you. What are your combat career highlights so far? It can be as a coach or as a fighter. If you had to pick something from your career, what would they be?
I've got quite a few, you know, mate. Like, obviously winning that belt in France was a nice thing. Traveling the world, just generally going to mad
you get
places,
about, mate.
Like, you know, like Chechnya and Australia and Bahrain and South Africa, going to places like that as a coach or a fighter.
It's an unbelievable lifestyle, isn't it?
Just, you know what, it's hard to pin a moment on any of it.
There's so many different disciplines in MMA. What would you say your strong points are?
Now MMA. My strength is the blend.
Do you think you're that rounded, Dean, yet? No.
I'm better at the rounded aspects than anything individually. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand the transitions between all the individual sports better than I understand the individual sports themselves, if that makes sense. So I'd like to think I'm an MMA coach, like proper one, because I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I'd like to think I'll get my black belt this year. Be nice too. I might not, but I've done it for a long time. So
moves me on to my next question and one of my last. What are your goals for this year?
Obviously we're relaunching the BTEC program with a new partner called Access Sports College. So I really want that to get a lot of legs this year. And
That's for children leaving school that can come and find a pathway at Aspire Combat Sports Academy.
Well, it's actually called the Combat Sports College, so it's a separate company, but it works with other gyms or with other, you know, providers to get people through a pathway.
If there's a kid out there and they want to get access to that course, how would they go about doing so?
For now, just contact me direct on Instagram or whatever, or go through the gym. But we are about to put some stuff out on how to apply in the next few weeks, so just keep an eye out. But we're also looking to launch a 14 to 16 alternative provision as well for kids who are disengaged with mainstream education, put into an alternative provision and they're still not responding.
They can come to you and do some work.
Come to us and we'll try and put them in with a peer mentor, someone like a Marlon Jones or a Liam McCracken.
An amazing idea.
So the plan is to try and get that up and running for September as well. So that's all in the pipeline.
Really good what you're doing.
And obviously we've just expanded the gym as well. So just finishing off the building work this year. And, you know, this is my final sprint as a fighter. So I want to compete in the bigger promotions now this year. And I want to earn some real money. Be nice to earn some proper dough this year. From fighting.
Have you got any ideas of what you're going to do this year? Can we disclose them ideas?
I've got something.
Are we going to have a Shake the Mic exclusive here or what?
Yeah, I mean, let's do it. And if it's not available at the time,
not a problem.
Then we can take this out. So look,
what's the end game for Dean Garnett?
Just to have a job that I don't need a vacation from. We're already at the end game, lad. I don't work for the man. You know, the work I do as a social benefit. I haven't got someone on my case trying to get me to send a spreadsheet off or hurry up and dig a hole. I've literally just got to work on myself. It's Project Dean. And then I've got to work with the young people around me to make them better, whether that's in combat sports or through education. Do you know what I mean? So as long as the bread and butter for me, as long as I make my living through, you know, development of myself and the people around me, then what else? What more do you want?
What an amazing life and opportunity you've created for yourself. Well done, lad. Couple of fast questions at the end, just to give it a bit of lightness and a bit of a laugh and that. Your dream fighter can be anyone, it doesn't have to be realistic. You and who?
At this point, can he be retired?
It can be anybody, living or dead, lad. If you could fight anybody, who would it be?
Do you know what? It'd probably be Aldo, you know. But you know what?
Aldo?
It'd probably be Jose Aldo, actually.
Toughest opponent you've ever faced, and why?
Definitely Magomedov. I know he's the most skilled fighter I've ever fought. And
would you like to run that back?
I'd be happy to run it back.
The best advice you've received as a fighter?
Simple wins, mate. Keep it simple. The more simple I make my strategy and my fighting set, my skill set, the better it gets.
Would that be the best advice you could give as a coach?
It's advice I'm constantly giving to people as a coach is make sure you're doing the basics well.
What's your go-to training drill? Could pick one.
The favourite type of drills that I like doing are like setting up takedowns with boxing. That's my go-to stuff.
Most rewarding moment as a gym owner?
Oh mate, the beat too many, you know, just literally like I get a proper buzz when one of the little 4-year-olds is absolutely buzzing that he's gotten injured of the day. That makes me feel all warm and fuzzy, and I get the same feeling when the lads win fights, whether that's been Mo fighting on the UFC or, you know, someone fighting locally
in
on
a
the
sport.
Honestly, mate, I couldn't pin that on one moment. It'd be unfair to.
Striking or grappling, what do you prefer?
Grappling with striking. That's my answer to that question, right? It's neither. It's grappling with striking.
The top 3 must have skills from an aspiring MMA fighter. Top 3.
Can these be mental skills or
they can be whatever? It's just got to be a skill that's gonna help you on the road to becoming a rounded, accomplished fighter.
Well, definitely resilience. Yeah, self-reflection, and then a wrestling base. If you haven't got a wrestling base,
forget about it.
Then MMA is not going to be something you're going to get to the top of. Like that, your striking and your jiu-jitsu are underpinned by your ability to either keep the fight standing or get it down.
Would you prefer to train in the morning or the evening?
Both. I probably prefer the morning but in an ideal world, you train twice a day.
Your last ever meal, what would it be?
Do you know
What's your
what?
favourite thing?
As mad
Favourite
as
thing
this,
to
as
eat?
mad as this sounds, it would be
Don't disappoint us now, do you?
peanut butter and banana butties.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is right, lad.
that's just something that I'll
It's the spot.
yeah.
Do it differently.
There's something I crave when I'm in camp then. Or just Dunkin' digestives in a cup of tea.
Are they the things you think of when you're starving?
They're the things that if I have one digestive,
You're hitting nail in the old pocket.
Yeah, it's all gone.
They're gone.
So
It's Mac 50's fault, not yours, lad. Your favourite place in the city?
is the gym. It is the gym, mate. That's my favourite place in the city. Is definitely the gym. If it was not the gym, no. I love Sefton Park. I go to Sefton Park a lot.
Spot, lad, innit?
Yeah,
it's a spot. You could only keep one possession. What would it be?
I mean, it's got to be your phone, on it. As much as I don't like to admit,
It is.
I love my phone because I know how toxic they are and how much they
But it's a
steal
tool.
us from the present moment so often. You know, while we're getting our dopamine hits, but they are a great invention.
One word to describe the feeling of stepping into the cage.
Alive. Too much of what we do today is just like shrouded in political correctness and safety, and I just think you get in there and like there's no hiding anymore. There's no making any excuses. You are going to be exposed for the man you are.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Would you like to give a little shout out to anyone? Any sponsors? Any people who support you? Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Obviously, the coaches at the gym. Shout out to all the guys at the gym. Phil, Ed, Joe, Glenn, you know, everyone. Azu's in Australia at the moment. So big shout out to them. Obviously, my manager, Gustavo Firmino. And again, some of the people who've sponsored me lately, leading up to these last few bouts. But what one product I will push right now is Win-Win Water.
Win-Win Water, yeah. Give them a little shout out. It's serious, isn't it?
Get
Local
on
lads
the
doing
Win-Win
water.
because
Tell us a little bit about Win-Win Water.
Well, basically, right, I typically distill water if I can.
Yeah.
And then the second best is bottled water. I will not drink tap water. So if I need a drink and someone offers me tap water...
Tell us about the nasties in tap water.
Oh, mate, it's what isn't in tap water. Everything's in tap water. Arsenic, lead, antibiotics. Like, what isn't it? Honestly, tap water is foul. When I see the bottom of a distiller when it's being used, it is disgusting what's in there, mate. So anyway, Win-Win Water, I actually did think about when is a brand like this going to come to be, because it made sense that this
These are two local lads, aren't they?
Started by local lads, which I think is great. But essentially, plastic waste is horrible. Like, I don't believe in the climate change narrative, but as far as pollution goes, the worst pollutants I think in the world today is plastic. It's not CO2. It's plastic, mate. Microplastics have been found everywhere in the human body now. They're in the placenta of pregnant women. They're in the bloods of most of us. And it's coming through things like plastic bottles.
So when we drink water from the inside, do you think there's plastic in that water and it's getting into us?
Oh, I don't think it. I know it. It's factual information at this point. What the lads at Win-Win Water have done is they've created a product where they're getting water from Glastonbury, which is one of the earth's chakras. So, you know, it's got some sort of I call it living water, right? So it's living water, it's structured water. They're taking it from a proper well, so it's going to be naturally filtered. It's not got things like fluoride added into it, which is an autotoxin in my opinion. And then they're putting it into a bottle that's biodegradable and has no plastic in it, and it's made largely from hemp. So they've literally just solved all the problems. There's no external pollution. There's no internal pollution. Do you know what I mean?
It's serious, isn't it?
So, and it's clean water that's life-giving. I say to people all the time, like, if like, I'm probably not in a good mode at the minute. I'm eating a lot of processed foods and ultra-processed foods, and I've got brain fog. My allergies are worse. But I know when I'm cleaning up my diet and I'm eating clean and I'm getting close to a fight, I have so much more mental clarity. But if you want to clean up your diet, start with good water. Buy a water distiller or buy Win-Win Water, even better. Because again, the water distilling process, it removes some important minerals from the water. I'd rather have distilled water than tap water. It's much cleaner still. Yeah. But something like Win-Win Water still got natural magnesium in and things like that, which are, again, everyone's deficient in them. So yeah, it's mad someone hasn't done that sooner. And yeah,
shout out to the lads at Win-Win Water.
Yeah, I'm definitely giving Win-Win Water a plug today.
belter. Thanks so much for coming on Shake the Mic, and thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to share the studio with you, Dean, and the very best of luck for everything in the future, with obviously with Aspire, with the program you've got developing, the youth coming through, and with your own personal fight career. I'd like to just take a moment to say thank you for coming in and sharing your time with us today, as I know you're very busy, and we truly appreciate it. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys, and until next time, peace out.
Nice one.